Thank you for that kind introduction. Pastor Chris, thank you. You did a wonderful job last night, didn't those of you? Thank you for the few of you that came this morning. Appreciate that. And those of you from the college that came. I don't see many, but I appreciate the few of you that did come. Yes, that was one of the things I was going to start right off with, because I figure it's usually that way. People don't often come to my chapels because, or see it as a big deal because they're immature and they want to move with God and experience. And I'm always going to flat out tell you to grow up. Because it's time for you to do that, and I love you very much. But I'm always going to be parental with the students because I want you to go somewhere. I want you not to be here just play. It's not playtime. It's really growing up time. It's just not wasted time. It's such an honor and a privilege for you to be here, and I'm thankful that you made the choice to come here. I'm thankful for each and every one of you that felt the call to come here and obeyed God and came. But with that being said, that gives us the responsibility as leaders to make sure your time here is not wasted and that we just don't let you just be as you want to be. We're going to let you not be. We're going to make sure that you become, as the motto says. And when you leave here, you have something that has truly transformed your life, that you will carry on into your ministry, into your marriage, to your family, and to the world for many of you. There are many callings, many diverse gifts, anointings, and talents sitting in this room today. But they're of no use without any type of anointing or presence of God attached. And you can't get that unless you get alone. That's what I was saying Sunday morning, and I get cut off with unless you're alone with God, with this word, and it's got to become the utmost priority. Not just prayer, but this word, because this is alive. This is what he left us. And this is what we have as our instruction. It is what we have, the answer to every question we have, every trial we have, every tribulation, every problem, every pain. There is a scripture in here that will help you. And if you are at a place when you can talk to God and you can have a dialogue with him, then he will give you the scripture. And I've told that many, many times. I always ask, if I'm praying for someone, I always do that. I ask for a particular scripture. God, give me a particular scripture for them that I can pray this scripture. I just don't want to pray something of my own. And if I'm having an issue, which is usually daily, I'm always asking God, please lead me to the right scripture that I need, or passage, or quote, or something from a book, but something inspirational, something motivational, something that will take me to a different place. I don't want to stay where I am. I don't want to have a pity party, because I'm very good at that. And woe is me, but I want to go somewhere. And I don't want to ever stay march in place. As soldiers, you don't go anywhere if you're just marching in place. We're moving forward. And as soldiers, which is what we are, and this is boot camp, and it's supposed to be uncomfortable, and it's supposed to be disciplined, and it's supposed to be hard, and it's supposed to have difficulty, and it's supposed to be at times you don't want to do what you're told to do, but you have to. You don't have to. But just like if you're truly called, and you are, but if you truly are, you sign the dotted line like you do when you enter the military, and you can't go back. You can go AWOL, as they call it, and you can go AWOL. But you lose all the privileges when you do that come with being a soldier. And when you enter the military, once you leave, you get these benefits. And you get those benefits for life. And if you leave here before your time, you miss out on all the benefits you have being connected to this place for life. Because if you leave here with a diploma and you stayed until the end, and you've crossed the finish line, you are forever connected to the lineage of this house. And you will always have the benefit of this house. You will always have available to you anyone or everyone that is here. You will always be able to come back. You will always be able to hold on to these moments, and you will benefit. And when you go home, and I think that's why I always get the last chapel before semester ends, you'll get to be comfy, and you'll get to go back home, and you'll get to have some time off, and you get leave like they do in the military, and everybody goes, hog wild usually, if they get leave on the weekends or whatever, or I forget what they call it. But when you leave, I don't want you to get stagnant, go backward, get tempted. It's be very easy. And I don't want this to, well, you probably all have it on your cell phones, but I don't want this to become, I'm going to be watching, I'm going home, I'm going to be watching Netflix, I got 50 movies and TV series I got lined up to watch, and I've got all this stuff planned, I'm going to see some of my old friends, and this is, well, I'm going to get back to that Bible in January anyway, so, well, maybe not. Maybe you'll fall into temptation. Maybe you won't have the grace that needs to sustain you because you've ignored God's authority in your life. And when you're in the military, you're under authority. And that's a lot of what I want to talk about today. It's, I hope it ends in blessing you, but before that, you have to understand where you are in this place and who you are under in this place, whose authority you're under. And you have to learn something that's very difficult for your generation, because it wasn't difficult for my generation, because black and white was black and white. There was yes and there was no. And there was no gray area with your parents, who were your authority figures or your teachers. There was yes or no. But with your generation, it is whatever. There are no clear boundaries. They're very blurred. There are no lines. You have the choices now to do whatever. Where did my time go? It's December, and I don't have this done and this done, and what has stolen my time? What can I get rid of? And what's stealing my time? And one thing is these phones that we're attached to, not, by necessity. I lived when we had no phones, but the ones we had at home, and then you had a payphone. And you had to have a dime, and my mom always said, don't leave home without a dime or a quarter for a phone call. And, you use some nasty paint, we didn't have Purell then either, and we all lived. But you got on the nasty payphone and with all those germs and used it to call whomever. But you actually could go 2 or 3, 4, 5 hours or a whole day without a cell phone, and you lived. And if anyone needed to get a hold of you, they usually could, because really didn't have many places to go. We didn't have malls, and our theaters had one picture screen. I guess, I mean, you probably think, she's from the 30s? Or, maybe. I'm in my 50s, but I'm not quite that old, but old enough to know. And be thankful. And I wrote this, maybe in my last blog, I don't know. I'm thankful, I did write it in. I'm thankful that I was raised in the time that I was. I would have liked to have lived earlier. I feel like an old soul. But I'm thankful that I was raised in a time where I knew where the boundaries were. And I didn't have to try to figure that out. But there are people in your lives that have been there and they know. And so it's your responsibility to realize, hey, I don't know. And it's okay that you don't know. And be okay with that. You don't know all that you need to know. Especially at your age, you don't. Because when I was 18, 19, 20, I was just kind of stupid at some things. I had some poor judgment. I mean, I didn't do anything bad, but I mean, I'd spend my last $5 on makeup instead of food, and eat crackers in college, or something like that. But not a lot of wisdom, in your 20s, early 20s, and you have to grow with that. And that's one of the wonderful things that come with age, is wisdom, because you learn what's really important in life. And especially when you go through a lot of heartbreak and a lot of heartache, and when suffering comes, I get criticized for telling people that, to not pray against it. And I'm not saying you shouldn't stand against that, but always know that if you're hurting, or if you're in pain and you're suffering in some way, you will be strengthened for that. If you read a lot of Charles Spurgeon, you'll know. But each time you make it over that mountain, you'll be stronger to make it over the next one, stronger. You'll be able to have a point of reference to say, well, I made it over that one, so I can make it over this. And make it over another one. And if you got, each one gives you an ability to look back and say, God got me through that, and I don't know how. But I have looked at my life. I'm sure that many of you have. And look back and think, how in the world did I ever get through that? How did I not fall apart? How did I not jump off a bridge? It was the amazing grace of God that held on to me, that kept me going, that took every step that I couldn't take, every breath I couldn't. But God does respond to us as our level of maturity. And so you're at a point in your life and at your age where he expects a certain level of obedience and a certain level of understanding where you are and who you need to respect. First, you need to respect yourself. If you don't respect yourself, you won't respect anybody else. If you treat yourself and act like a piece of trash, that's how you're going to treat everybody else. Because you have no worth. You look at yourself that way. And so you don't think anybody else has any either. So it doesn't matter to you whether you hurt them or not, because you don't care about yourself. Or you might care about some things, but you don't care enough to get up and go to class, because you don't realize where you are and who's in front of you and what kind of knowledge that they have to impart, or what you missed that day that may have been the exact answer you needed. And when you're submitted to authority and you live a submitted lifestyle, it's completely different. Start respecting yourself, and you're submitted to God, and he starts putting red flags up. He starts flagging you, and you understand by the Spirit of God and the Holy Ghost that he'll say, red flag about a person, maybe a relationship, red flag. And I always throw this in because you're young people. A lot of people get together and I can't imagine how many marriages and families have been created from people that have met here. And we used to call it World Harvest Bridal College because it was, a ring by spring. And if that's your focus, you're going to really miss out on a lot. You shouldn't be looking around. It should be God said this to me the other day. Stop looking around at everything, talking about circumstances. Stop looking around you and looking at who surrounds you. Stop looking around you and start looking at who surrounds you. So look up, not around. And if you have that focus, you'll know in a heartbeat, oh, that person's not for me. Oh, no, I'm not going there. And I'm thankful that, as parents, we trained our kids. You go to church, and it was scary when it was time for them to, not Austin, but he was here, so we had a little inroad into what he was doing. But when Ashton left for college, and she was going to be on her own. And sort of, her dad did call a lot, and she was the only one in the entire University of Miami University. No one else has a curfew but me. I'm the only one. She obviously knew every 3,000 people that were there and knew she was the only one with a curfew. We're like, well, there's nothing good that happens after 1 a.m. What else what good happens? Nothing good can happen. And I remember her telling me, and, all I can do is I'm home. I'm home. I'm not there. Is pray. And pray that God brings to her remembrance the things she's been taught, that she hangs on to his word, and all of the things her dad and I would pray over her. And we knew that the enemy would be out there to steal her anointing, as he's prepared has a plan and a snare for each one of you. He always has for all of us. And that's why we have to know and be vigilant and understand and look and be aware at all times at what plan of attack he's got. And it's usually a sneak attack. It's usually not something you'll see coming. It's usually something that's very sneaky. And in one translation, in the Gospels, Jesus calls him an evil genius. And you think of the villains, in all the superhero movies, they're the evil geniuses. But anyway, Ashton was invited to go to this party, and she started to go, and she said there was just something in me that said, I better not go. And I went back to my dorm room, and she had, some good friends there, and they were decent. But they went, and they were from some good families, very notable families around the city. And but every one of them the police busted and did a raid for underage drinking at that party. Now, can you imagine? She would have been arrested. Everybody got arrested, and we would have gotten a call. And the one phone call, I'm in jail right now. To me, she would have been home doing college online. But she knew. That was her dad's threat. You do anything stupid, you're coming home. You're going to college online. You drink, you do anything stupid, you're with guys, he would call at 1 a.m., show me the clock. Now technology would really be, we didn't even have FaceTime, and back then, way back when you're so old. back a few years ago, and now we could Marco Polo or whatever. I don't even know. I don't use FaceTime or any of it because I don't want everyone to see me like, why didn't you answer my Marco Polo? I didn't have makeup on. I was in my pajamas. I don't want to look for some UGG and be like, hey, how are you? But anyway, and plus I don't know how to do, I don't know how to, I'm horrible with phones, and I hate this new phone I have. But anyway, thank God she knew the plan of the enemy, and she knew and understood what a red flag felt like. And because of that, she missed a real opportunity for the enemy to destroy a huge part of her life and her growth, being away from home, because it was a time, and it is a time when you're away from home, to really learn and to grow and to become self-sufficient and to depend on God and to have faith and to listen to your leaders and to listen to others and to really have to suck it up sometimes and put your big girl pants and your big boy pants on, and mommy and daddy can't fix it for you anymore. And it's just a really good opportunity. If you blew all your money and you call home and, I need some extra money, and mom and dad say, nope. And you have to tough it out and eat crackers. It's a good growing up time that you have. And you'll look back and learn lessons like I did even. And, but I was watching a little bit of President George H.W. Bush's funeral yesterday, for those of you who probably weren't alive during his presidency. And he was quite a World War II hero, and they were showing some of that. And I was upstairs, and Pastor was downstairs, and we were texting each other, which is stupid, but it's what we have now. And we were just so sad because he was saying, where are all the great ones now? Where are all our great leaders? Because that generation is called the greatest generation of World War II, and those even preceded them. And it was because there was that line of distinction. There was that presence, a constant presence, and it was just a distinction of what was right and what was wrong. And you didn't question it, and you didn't challenge it, and you didn't think you knew more than anyone that was above you, anyone that would lead you. When I was in school, my parents didn't come to the school if I got in trouble, and, I don't believe you, I'm taking my kid out of this school because I can't believe you. If I got in school, I was always told, if you get in trouble at school, you're going to get worse trouble when you get home. You cause trouble to any teacher, well, you're going to get it when you get home. And that happened a few times. If you know my dad, you would know. They were more concerned about the authority figure than me. Now, if I'd been treated unfairly, that would have been different. But now everybody's treated unfairly. It's all unfair. We've got somebody to blame. That's just the line. That's just what we say. That's it. That's the type, and that's the page. That's the lesson. That's it. That's what we say. Because we know something. We don't even think about authority anymore. And that's why everything's so broken. Because when you're submitted to God, you are whole. Your life is whole. You are whole. When you're not submitted to him, you are broken. Your life is broken. Your life's a mess because everything's blurry. If it's blurry, you can't see anything. You have to, you're not seeing anything clearly. And that's what we have. It's these blurred lines. And authority is not even something that's in our vocabulary any longer. And spiritual authority is totally lost on this generation for sure. And so you have a real challenge because you don't have what we had. And I was talking to some kids at the Barnes & Noble event, and they were telling me about, Mark Arthur was telling me specifically about a class he has at OSU, and it's so politically correct. And everything is so politically correct, and all the professors have to be so politically correct. And even we, when we're speaking, have to be sure that there's some words we do not use. We cannot use any type of hate speech now, or, there's things that you have to edit yourself because you can't say things. Not that we would say hate speech, but I'm just saying there's some things you better watch real closely that you do not say. Because everybody's got a cause now, and I can't even keep up with them. So, and I don't even watch the news as much anymore. I just try to see what's basically going on and what's important and necessary, but I can't stand to listen to people debate. It's something God put his hand on, and when you listen to God's authority, he does that. He'll put his hand on it. It might be different for me. He looks at you because he wants you to be a whole person. And so for you, he might say, no TV, no more iTunes, no more rap music, no more Celine Dion, no more, He might put his hand on your relationship. I want this gone. Because he sees that it's breaking you. It's breaking you. It's taking you away from him. And that's what I always throw in. If you're with somebody that takes you away 1 minute from your focus on God, he or she is not been sent of him. If God sends someone into your life, they will only enhance your relationship with God. They will not take away or subtract. They will not expect that, and you will not be tempted to do that. If you do that, that's on you. And maybe it was the person God had for you. But then you weren't submitted enough to understand and spend time in this word that there are things you don't do. And there are things that are right and wrong when you're a young person and you're not married. And there are things that are wise and unwise. And you learn that by this word. You learn that by listening to authority. That's why people are placed over you, because they're over you to protect you. That's your covering. That's the umbrella. And that's a safe place. That's where God is our hiding place. He is over us. And he will protect us. But we have to be able to be submitted. And when he says, I'm putting my hand on something, and you don't do it, then you'll become broken in some area. And you'll look back and, well, I don't know what happened. Well, you disobeyed God. I disobeyed God. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I mean, and Pastor always preaches, what's my word won't be your word. Because God knows what I need to be whole. And it's different from what you need. And I wasn't a big TV watcher. I didn't, I just wasn't. But God, for 2 years, no TV, and this is weird. And God will say some things that you don't understand, but they will make sense eventually. So if he does instruct you, or if someone else in authority instructs you, and you think, and they're a trusted authority and a vetted authority. The people in authority at this place have been vetted, which means, that means we know that they can be trusted. They're not going to say something stupid in your life and give you a prophecy, and that's nonsense. That's what I was saying at the beginning. People won't come and run to listen to me because you're not going to get a running, jumping, Cirque du Soleil, Cirque du Hole experience where everybody flip-flops around and jumps up and down. And this is not me. What is a move of God? We have labeled it as that. God only moves if everybody's sweating and, jumping up and down and running. And then, we're on the front row, and it's a mosh pit down here, and everybody's up and down and so blessed. And it's great when that happens. I watch. I love to see people get blessed. I enter in, sort of. I don't dance because, I can't dance like Germaine. And, or some of you can really, really do it well. But I won't tell our Germaine's secret dance, though. You're down here in the mosh pit and everybody's sweaty like camp meeting, and you can't breathe because it's like people are, I'm on a mosh pit is there's like you're like this. In the front row, it gets pretty smelly, and it's like you can't breathe. I'm not saying, people jump up and down. I guess, people stink when they sweat. So it gets pretty bad. But Jermaine does this little dance with the air freshener. He's dancing around, just real cool about it. And he's got some air freshener there. So all of us that are around can breathe so much. Sometimes I move to the second row and I'm saying, I'm just hot, I'm okay. It's just like, no, I can't breathe because it's so gross down here. But that doesn't denote the only way God can move. God can move, and the most beautiful way I think he moves is in worship, because that's the place. That's the place. Praise is wonderful, but that's a place for everybody. But you have to have a real relationship to know God in worship, because you can praise God, he's so good, and he's so good to me, and la-di-da-di-da, and everybody can praise God. Enter into his gates with praise. Enter into his courts with thanksgiving, but you have to enter in to the Holy of Holies. If you're going to enter into that place where he truly, how can I even describe it? It's indescribable. Where he is, where his presence is surrounding you, enveloping you, and all you can do is fall on your face and worship. It's not about you in any way. It's all about him. And all you can do is say, how in the world did I get here, Lord? How did you find me and love me enough to give me the privilege of making it to an altar one day? We're privileged enough to get that opportunity. Then you get an opportunity to come for 2 years or 3 and sit under wonderful professors and have the best chapels and amazing. I love chapels here. I watch everyone online. And then you have all the great meetings, speakers that come in, but you have every Sunday with a master that comes. And I don't say that lightly. He is a master teacher and preacher. And when I say that, people are called a master actor or a master. They have reached a place where they're an icon in their profession. They'll call actors, they're iconic, or singers are iconic, or sports legends, they're iconic. And, years ago, when he was the it guy, he had a choice, and had he not been a person under authority, he could have gotten really full of pride because he was the it guy and everybody was calling. And nobody would ever say anything to me afterwards when all the preachers were around the meetings, but except, how can I get to have your husband come to my church? They never said, hi, how are you? It was just that. And I won't even say anything, but any more about that. But the reason why, and I told him this yesterday, the reason why he's at that level, and you have that opportunity to sit under, especially if you want to be a preacher, to sit under, and I'm not saying that just because I'm his wife, because I don't like every message. Some of them I'm kind of, I mostly do, but. No, what I usually say is, and I want to do it too, I want to be on him. This was your stopping point. Because then everybody would remember, but he has so much, and he's full of so much, and he's still got, if you see the study area, apartment, so there's just papers everywhere, but he knows where every note is, and you can't mess with one. And, but he's full of the Word because he's spent years studying it and studying others and knowing where he was. And I said, he had an opportunity to be extremely prideful. And when you're getting fed compliment after compliment of how great you are and you're the greatest, and everybody's telling you, I'm the greatest, that's kind of hard to ignore. But if you're with somebody that's greater than you, and you're under that authority, and you're smart enough to realize where you are compared to him, then you hang your head a little bit, and you don't get into the worst sin there is, and the worst place there is, which is pride. And why? Is because that's what caused the devil, Satan, to fall, was pride. And it's the one area he will do the sneak attack to get you into pride, to get you thinking you're better than everybody else. You don't have to listen to anybody. I'm not listening to them. What do they know? I'm not listening to my dorm leadership. They're my age. I don't agree with that. It doesn't matter if you agree with what the rules are. The rules are there. They're there for your protection. I don't like driving 60 sometimes in a certain zone, but I do that because I want a ticket. I don't want the consequences. And there's a consequence to your actions or your inaction. There's a consequence to your actions and your inaction. If you're going to be lazy and do nothing, never pick up a Bible, expect the blessings to rain down on you. No, you got to pay a price for this. It's going to cost you. It's going to hurt. And when it does, just know you're growing. And it's for your good. Just like those rules are out there on the highway, they're for our own good. Because if people drove at high speeds, there would be a lot more fatalities. We're not supposed to text and drive because there are so many fatalities because of that. And so rules are made and authority is in place for our own protection, and spiritual authority especially. Just like pastor, he was submitted to Dr. Lester Summerall. Now, we still can't believe it. I still can't believe that he would ever, it was before we were married, but I mean that he would ever, the guy was ever, all we ever prayed, we prayed, I remember when we were dating, we both prayed that one day we'd just get to meet him. And just because he was, I mean, I hope that in Bible college, he is a class or a focus of some sort, and you learn that that is our direct lineage, first one over pastor, and then the lineage that's behind him, because it is amazing. And it's so legendary that it blows my natural mind, because I can't even fathom the thought. Because these people were so incredibly sold out, but there was nothing else. And I watched that, and I am most blessed to have had any favor from God to even get to be in the same room with these people. And when you see that compared to where you are, you realize you got a lot of growing to do. You're not the big deal you thought you were, or that people tell you you are. And so thank God, Pastor. And I told him yesterday, the reason why you're great, when he said there's no great leaders, you're a great leader. There's one reason why I believe. It's not his preaching, and it's great. Like Benny Hinn said, every 500 years, God sends someone that preaches like that. And I remember, preachers would talk, and one even said, when I hear Rod Parsley preach, I just want to go quit and go sell insurance and not even try to preach again. And it is an amazing gift that he's been given, but he's worked for it. He's worked on it. And he says, I still get nervous every time I get ready. It's not like, well, I've got enough now. I know enough now. I don't have to ever study again. He probably does. But that's not. He's seeking a word for us. What's the word God has for his people? Not just, I want to preach a great sermon. He wants to preach the sermon that's the effective one that God has for our growth at this time as a body of Christ, and a particular body of Christ. And so, in comparison, what I told him was, you're a great leader because of one thing. In my opinion, this is my humble opinion. Because you kept Rodney in the Rod Parsley. And I call him Rodney because Rodney's who I dated and Rodney's who I married. Rod Parsley is whatever you call persona, or that's how I see. He just didn't run with, I'm somebody now, so I'm a big deal, and he kept his humility, his humble beginnings, and his respect for authority, his respect for his parents. And they still would give them their opinion, and he respected it. They might fight a little bit about it, but he honored his parents, and they're so dearly missed. And he was certainly under their authority, but it was by choice. And that's the sweetest kind of place you can be, when you're under authority by choice, because you see what benefit there really is from it. Because when you see it with your parents, and you see the love that comes from them or your leaders, you see how much they love you and care about you, really care about you. I mean, you're really cared about. Like I told you in the dorm wars, which was so fun. But, my daughter melted into my arms, and she does a lot of things. But the one thing she was crying about was, I miss my students. I miss my kids. She takes ownership of you. And she knows every name. And I'll say, who's that, who's that, who's that. She knows everybody. And God has people you don't even know about that may say, watch over that one, pray for that one. And he's done that to me. And usually, I won't say every year, but there will be somebody, and I'm not as, no, well, maybe I will say sometimes. Mostly it's young ladies, or I should say young women, and I want them to become a young lady. I want to see them be a lady and not, that virtue is something to seek, not being hot. Be virtuous. That will get someone's attention that's worth something. If somebody just thinks you're hot, he's just a big loser. And will get you nothing in life, but he'll be, But I don't know what time it is. Make sure I'm not. Okay. How many years ago it was when I saw Germaine, Elder Germaine now, but as a student, and we had a basketball team then, and my niece Amy was helping with that. And anytime we have a basketball team, pastor's over there because he does believe he's a basketball coach too. He loves basketball. And I wish I could go on and share more stories about Dr. Summerall, but I do really want you to, if you get the opportunity to see one of his books, please read it. And you will not believe. You will not believe. And I just want to step back to that just for 1 second when I said they were so sold out, and Dr. Summerall always said, I give Lester Summerall 30 minutes a day to get ready, and the rest belongs to Jesus. And I mean, it did. Like things that you wouldn't, this whole TV studio burnt down. And he went and saw it, stepped over the debris, and said, I've got a meeting tonight. They were, you're not going to stay here? I mean, his studio's been, most of us would be, oh my God, it's a tragic event, and oh my God, what are we going to do now? He's like, I can't do anything about it now. I've got to preach the word of God tonight. And so he gets on an airplane, goes. And he taught the whole, reason we have conference after conference and TED Talk after TED Talk and online and classes and sessions on how to avoid stress. And his was just so easy. I think of what's ahead of me today, not what was behind me, what I did, or what's ahead of me. And I don't get overwhelmed and stressed out because I only think of what I have today. That's a biblical, that's a scripture, it's in the Gospels. And if I could ever learn that, to live just one day at a time, that would be great. I'm always fretting about, oh God, I'm so overwhelmed. And God taught me a little lesson the other night when I was outside. And he said, if you're so overwhelmed, that's when he said that about, don't look around you, but look at who surrounds you. And he said, start praying for somebody that you think may be overwhelmed. And I did. And then I sent them a message. And I don't know if they were personally overwhelmed, but I would see that what circumstances they are in at their work that would be very overwhelming because they have so much to do and very little competent help. So So I was praying for them. And whatever you're facing, a really good way to get the eyes off of what you're facing is to pray for someone else you know that is in that situation. Minister out of your own need. Go to that person or pray for that person and get your eyes off of that. And soon you will settle down and know everything's going to be okay. And you realize somebody else needs me more than some of the nonsense we get so wrapped up in. But Germain was Elder Germain. I still have trouble with that because he's just always going to be Germain to me. But he was walking in the gym, and God spoke to me and said, I want you to be a mother to him. And I've never told him this, and he said, choked up. And he said 5 more words, and don't ever let go. And and then we were at some function, I tapped him on the shoulder and said, I need to talk to you. And I don't know what he thought about that, but we were out maybe in the hallway, and I told him, God, I was just saying, God really put you on my heart. I just want you to know, I'm praying for you, and I'm here if you need me, if I'm here to be. And I didn't understand it because I thought, my gosh, he has great parents. I mean, this is not somebody who's got a sad story. He's got wonderful parents that I know are praying and for him. And why is that, Lord? And he said, well, they're not here to see and to watch and to step in front of him. That's what your job is. And that's what job is. So I was like a little CIA agent. He didn't even know. I was asked about him and find out if there's any girls after him. And we were at basketball practice one day, and some girls were behind. There were always girls trying to be statisticians, for the basketball team. And Germain was assistant coaching or something, weren't you? And I heard some girls talking about him. And so I'm like backing up, like, I want to hear this. So, and they're like, oh, good man, he's got such swag. And I'm like, I don't even know what swag is, but I don't know, it must not be good. Or maybe, I don't know. But he's got such swag. And then they said some other things, and I thought, okay. I turned around and said, young ladies, excuse me, you're not ladies. I want you out of this gym, get your stuff, and get out and get back to the dorms right now. And they were, and we dealt with that a little bit later because they were, I'm just going to say what I was thinking about. It was like, skanky doodles can just get on out of this town. You're not getting around this kid. Not my kid, nope. And so, yeah, that's real. And so apparently, I had no idea what God had for him. I can't look at you unless he tells me. And no, I had no idea what he was going to grow up into. But I knew that I was supposed to step in front of what was ever here, whatever snare was around, to keep him from falling and tempting him. And then he started dating a beautiful psalmist, singer, worshiper at the time. She was, I think, her sister and brother-in-law were our worship leaders, and she was on the front line, Miss Lisa. And then my prayer was like, oh, God, don't let Germain screw this up, because this is a good girl. She's got a good family, and her dad even scares me, and he's going to kill Germain if he hurts her or he does anything. And because his dad, his son Brent, was a student, and he was friends with my nephew. And I remember him looking at Brent, because Brent had got a speeding ticket. And he just looked at him and said, go wait for me outside. And Brent's face was like, oh, no, I'm getting killed. It was just the look, and I was just like, I was scared for Brent. I was just like, why did you tell? Why did you come? And I would have paid your ticket for you. Let me know. you know, I always snuck around to kind of, this is not a good authority message, but I would do some things like that before I'd tell my parents. As I had a lot of speeding tickets in my 20s, I was, like I said, a little bit stupid, always running late. But, so I'm not saying I am the reason that you got to marry Lisa, because you were stupid, and I was afraid you were going to mess it up, but I did what I was, yep, I mean, and I remember seeing him one day, and he was walking like he does. Was walking like this. And he was walking to the door and just his head down, and I drove up, I'm like, what's wrong? Like, nothing. Because he won't, he'll never ask for anything. And like, what's wrong? Aren't you going to the spring fling, it was called then, I think back then? He's like, nope. I said, what, you have the money for the ticket? He's like, no. I'm like, go get your suit on. I gave you the money. I'm like, get your ticket, get your suit on, go. And I have done what the Lord said, and it's out of true love. And I'm only saying all of this, not to say, oh, she's so wonderful and sweet. And I kept that throughout his work when he got here. Just how many talks would we have, and little talks, and encouraging him. And, it's tough to start out. And now, I mean, he can run an entire service. He went from assistant basketball coaching and got on staff here, and little by little, I just kept seeing that growth, and we talked the most about being servants. And I remember talking to in pastor's office about servanthood. And if you have the heart of a servant, which is always my platform, soapbox, if you have that heart, you'll never have to worry about getting prideful. You always have a humble heart. Miss Brittany knows about Just Cause, because she has to preach that too. You're at your best when you're serving, because you really are. You forget about yourself when you're serving others that have need, or just because you're doing it out of respect. And now I'm watching the same things I saw Pastor do for Dr. Summerall, I'm watching Elder Germain do for Pastor. And he doesn't probably notice some of the things I notice. And I remember, just things, because, Pastor's a little older now, and he's had some battles with health, and I watched him help him get his shoes off. I've seen Pastor do that with Dr. Summerall. I've watched him do things that most of you would never know. Well, I can't believe it. Dr. Germain would do that. He can get up and run a service and do all the things he can do, and preach and say some of the things he does that just blows me away, and get, I think it was last week, it was this amazing service, and it's doing amazing work. And but I credit all of it to, his parents, of course, and he's, I'm sure, under authority there, because I'm sure of that. But because he never thought he was any big deal compared to who he was serving, and he became a servant first before he became a speaker, a teacher, preacher, exhorter. So promotion will always come when your heart is turned towards God and the authority in your life. Promotion comes when you're producing and working towards your goals, but you're also helping somebody else do what they're doing. And if you have that in your heart, to always help others and not yourself, God will take care of you. He will. He will. Through the toughest times and what lies ahead of you, I can promise you that. It will be tough. It will be wonderful. There will be wonderful moments, and there will be ones that will break your heart in pieces. But God will be there for both. And as long as you don't get too caught up in the wonderful moments and think you're something, you keep your humility on the mountain, He will be there for you in the valley. If He knows you are serving and loving others, being good to your neighbor, like Mr. Rogers teaches us, loving your neighbor, He will take care of you, no doubt. And it starts with that, a humble heart. I have scriptures and notes and things, but I'm just talking out of my heart. Stay in the will of God. Very simple. Ask Him about everything. Don't just, there's a big mistake for me. My life hasn't been ruined because of it, but ask Him about everything. What is His will? What did you think about this, Lord? Should I do this? Should I do that? You don't have to ask about, should I have Cheerios or cornflakes? Or, to get that's, we've had students actually have done that. But I could tell a really fun story. But, the end result was I was like, I can't believe this. And I'm just being so persecuted and da-da-da. And just like Daniel in the lion's den. And God simply said, you didn't ask me. Why did this happen? Why? You didn't ask me anything about it. You didn't seek me, didn't seek my opinion, just did it on your own knowledge, thinking you know more than me, I guess. And so what I got was a disaster and a broken mess because I did not obey the Word of God, which is also our authority. This book is our authority in our lives, and it's there to protect us. Why do we reject authority instead of respect authority? Why don't we, where did it go wrong? Where did it go wrong? In our country, I can tell you, when they took prayer out of schools and God became something you couldn't mention, I'm surprised we still have the Pledge of Allegiance. And people who will not sing Star Spangled Banner anymore. And I don't mind saying that makes me really upset. Because my dad served and pastor's father in Korea. And they're saying that about President Bush, that he never spoke of his service. And my dad rarely spoke, ever, about his service. I really didn't know much of what he did. I only would hear him and Mr. Parsley laughing and telling some of the Army things they got into. But my dad said, I drove an ambulance, and I knew that. And I remember seeing, he was talking about, I don't know if I should go there, and I don't want to get anybody mad, but he was just giving his opinion about when NFL players would take a knee during the Star Spangled Banner, and that upset him. Because he's from that greater generation. And he said, I remember, now think of this, you guys. He was 18 years old and drafted. He didn't sign up. You were drafted and told to go. Now, how would you like to get a card in the mail saying, go sign up now, And it still can happen. And you're going into the Army, and you're going to be on a train or a ship, and he's like, next thing I know, I'm on a train. I'm going to Korea. 18 years old, I'd be scared to death. And so he was, later on, and I'm closing, but he drove an ambulance, and he got choked up talking about it. And he said, I remember those kids. They're just kids, and what they looked like when I had to pick them up. And so the price that people paid for that flag, that Star-Spangled Banner, we should respect our country. We should respect our presidents, regardless of whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, or you don't vote and don't care. That's the highest office in the land. We are obligated as Christians to pray for our leaders, to pray that they make the right decisions. They have to be courageous, regardless if I like them or not. I will pray for their courage to make the right decisions for our safety and security. It's not, I can't stand this president, so I'm not, no. We can't do that. Again, that's not humility. We're under that authority. We're under our government's authority. We have to pay taxes. I don't like that. I don't like giving so much to the government, but I guess, anyway, I won't go there. But, I hope I didn't offend anybody about but that's my 89-year-old father saying, as an 18, 19-year-old kid, what he had to see of people who fought for the freedom for us to get to sit in a place and worship God, even say the name God, and even have a Bible, because there's places that you can't do that. Get your head cut off. And so, let me just end with this. And when Jesus was entered into Capernaum, there came unto him a centurion beseeching him, and saith, Lord, my servant lieth at home sick of the palsy, grievously tormented. And Jesus saith unto him, I will come and heal him. The centurion answered and said, Lord, I am not worthy that thou shouldest come under my roof, but speak the word only, and my servant shall be healed. For I am a man under authority, having soldiers unto me. And I say to this man, Go, and he goeth. And to another, Come, and he cometh. And to my servant, Do this, and he doeth it. When Jesus heard it, he marveled. Now imagine marveling Jesus. Imagine, because that would marvel me. If you had somebody you could say, do this, and they would do with it. It's usually you get some talk back. And if you don't hear it, they're going to grumble about it and complain to somebody else, or give you a cryptic message on Twitter. Go, and he goeth, and to another, Come, and he cometh, and to my servant, Do this, and he doeth it. Okay, I marveled. When Jesus said, he marveled, and said to them that followed, Verily I say unto you, I have not seen so great faith. I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel. And they left out the rest of the scripture. But anyway, he says, that's funny. I had some, but he says, you don't have to worry about it, basically. I've heard your faith. Go, and this person's healed. And he basically said, you already have the faith. This person's already healed, and he didn't. So that's the story was. The moral of the story was he understood that this man understood authority, and because of that, his faith was great. Because he understood who had what he needed and respected that. And so he got what he needed and what he sought after because he was under authority. And he had faith that marveled Jesus. Imagine that. And all it takes is to be under authority. And God will promote you because your faith is great. Because you realize he knows he can trust you. That's what happens. If you can have a servant's heart, humble, not prideful, not like Jermaine could have said, I'm getting pretty good, so, if Pastor needs something from me, I'm going to hide out over here. And where he goes, he follows. And so that's why he's been promoted. And he still has a servant's heart. And that's the story of Elijah and Elisha. And that's why when Elijah left, got a double portion. Now, servants get double. He left and he gave that mantle to him and said, Jesus did the same thing. He wanted us to do greater things will you do. Because he went and sent his Holy Spirit. We have somebody even helping us. We have the comforter, the advocate, right alongside of us. Living inside of us. If we're listening to his voice, he's leading and guiding here and there and there. And because we're under this authority, because we've read it enough to know something, instead of being on our phones or any other garbage. Garbage in, garbage out. I never ended my story about TV. The reason, you told me 2 years, no TV, except the Hallmark Channel. I thought, well, that is so weird. I don't watch the Hallmark Channel. So, of course, it was the only thing I was permitted to watch. I'm under authority. I'm going to obey God because there's a reason for this. I always know. Somehow this is going to make sense. And I shared this before, and I realized everything on the Hallmark Channel is so wholesome and pure. And the movies are, they're not Citizen Kane or anything like the greatest movie you've ever seen in your life, but everything's wholesome and pure, and there's no one cuss word, and I realized how desensitized I had become. That was my lesson through all of it. How desensitized I had come, and how to the point that I ignored what I was listening to or watching. It was like, it's not so bad. No, We called our guilty pleasures. We'll watch, this is it's just my guilty pleasure, The Real Housewives, or some show where there's a lot of language. Well, there's just a little bit of there's some language, but it's just that guilty pleasure. And I asked the Lord, what does that really mean when we say guilty pleasure? It means we really know we shouldn't be doing it, but we do it. So we're, actively being in disobedience. So that was my lesson. And now I can't really stomach anything. And I'm glad. I'm not saying, well, I'm holier than thou, but because I have so many other issues to work on. And that's where I want to leave this. I want you to think, before you go home, I wrote it down exactly. How to get to a place in your life to repair what may have been broken. Don't look back. Jesus doesn't. He doesn't look at your past. If you've forgiven, you've asked for forgiveness and truly repented, which means you've changed, not, you said, I'm sorry, and I won't do it again, and then do it again. And, we've all done that, but, truly, That's in your past, and Jesus makes all things new. But I want you to think of something you really overcame that was hard. Like you overcame that. It was something that was difficult in your life, and you overcame it. And you never thought it was a mountain, and you got on the other side. And then to think of currently what mountain you may be facing. What is your current need? And thirdly, what needs to go on the altar? Because whatever needs to go on the altar will probably fix what is number 2. Maybe something very simple. Maybe your problem is finances and you need to put shopping on the altar. I'm not saying it's simple. Maybe something that's that simple. I'm not talking about giant VIP sins, and maybe you have that. Maybe you're, having difficulty with porn. It's so available, but it needs to go on the altar. It might be your current, and it might be all 3, but it needs to go on the altar. Maybe the way you treat people. And that's what so impressed me about this funeral. It was because everyone was talking about not everything that he did, but how he made them feel. And that is what is my prayer. God, I don't ever want to hurt somebody, so when I walk away, they're hurt. I hope that I've improved their life in some way when they're around me, even if it's a hello or a whatever, that's a genuine and authentic, and that I don't ever make someone lie on their pillow at night and have to pray to get over me. She's such an issue in my life. God, I'd hate that. Her attitude is such... Because there's a difference in when someone speaks to you in authority and love and they're firm, and somebody just being, doing it with an attitude and, you got to do this because I said so. Authority figures will always speak to you in love. And because they care about what's produced in your life currently and the outcome. Because we want you to leave here whole. Because God's a repairer of the breach, Hallmark message. He will repair whatever needs repaired in your life. Heal what hurts you from your past. Take care of what is hurting you in your present. And maybe it's something you'll have forever. I don't know. There are things I do not understand. I don't understand why some people haven't gotten a healing. But the only thing I can say to that is what Dr. Summerall said in a book. No, actually in a magazine article of his that I read. There are things that if we knew everything on earth, then we wouldn't need a Savior, and we wouldn't need a heaven. There are some things we'll never understand until we get there. And we just have to have faith through it. We just have to have faith and trust that God is still our hiding place. He is still where we can run to and be safe and be loved and be taken care of. But there is something we're responsible to do on the other end. He's not just going to do that because it's in here. It's got to be in here. It's got to go from here into here. And then you've got to bear the fruit of it. You've got to walk in love, even with people that make you nuts. I mean, think of, pastoring a lot of people. I mean, over the years, it's been like, oh my God, you got to be kidding. I said before, why didn't God call us to be veterinarians so we could be with animals or something, and cute little dogs? And I mean, people are just, there are times it's been like that. And then there are times it's like, these people are so precious. And I see our church that way. They're a precious treasure. That's how I've always said it. They're a precious treasure, and how I marvel that they're sent here. And pray, just like I marvel that you're here, to pray that you are well taken care of. But be sure you're doing what's right, what you're told. And you go where you were supposed to go with, and you do what you're supposed to do with. And then it will be well with thee. It will be well with what's troubling your soul. You can say, it is well with my soul, because you know him. You have to know. That's what I was saying Sunday. You have to know him. You have to know him, and you can't just get it, giving him 5 minutes a day. Your whole day's got to be centered on, I mean, you can't be praying all day, but I mean, he's got to be such a part of you that he is a Christ consciousness is what it's called, that you are conscious of his presence, that he is watching, and notice that he is with you at all times. It will keep you out of sin. And when we get away from that, it's usually when we stumble. We realize, or we've ignored the fact God is watching. And he is watching. But regardless of where you are or what you do, he'll always love you and forgive you, as will your authority figures here. But just seek him first. Don't seek a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a mate, a ministry, to get to be on the front line and get to sing a solo or preach a service or do a chapel or whatever. Seek him first, and you'll have a much greater life of peace. And you will know him. And to know him, you can trust him through the worst things that happen in life. But you have to know him in order to do that. I can't trust you unless I know you. I'm not going to give you, hey, here's my purse, but you hold that for me. You know, I'm not going to do that unless I know you and I trust you, because you're not going to get in it and take what valuables I might have, which it's my credit card maybe. So you have to know him and then trust him. To trust him. And to do that, you must seek him first. And that is my prayer for you today. I have a lot more for you to say. I had note cards. I'm over time, but I wanted you to be able to, and if you want to still do that, Miss Ashton, I don't want to be out of authority. I wanted you to at least write down, at this point, let's just write down what you need to put. Well, Ashton will take it from here. But I want you to remember something specifically. I want there to be some kind of impression made on you, not me. I don't come to impress people. I come to try to bless people. But I want there to be an impression of this message simply just because I don't want you to slip or stumble when you go home. I want you to come back here stronger, because you look at, I'm going to have no classes, and I'm going to have more time to read the Word and watch some sermons and get YouTube and watch some of Dr. Summerall's sermons are on there. Use your time wisely. That's what I want. That's why I want you to be conscious of what you need now and what needs to go on the altar, because that's how what you need will be repaired, most generally. I mean, there's got to be something all of us can. I mean, I know what mine is. That may hinder what number 2 is. And so that's what I want you to leave with. What is in my life that's hindering my walk with God, or what's happening? What can repair what's broken? If I don't have this, I can be whole. I can have peace. I can be cleansed from sin. I can walk in this forgiveness. So I don't want to be in sin, because then God can't hear our prayers. That's a scripture. God will not hear. If we have sin, he will not hear. And I don't want to. I've got too many things I pray about. I need a lot. I have a long list. So I love you, Ashton, and I pray for your wonderful break. I pray that it is prosperous and that your soul will prosper in that time, because I love you. And we'll be there to see you at the finish line.